Welcome to the Etsy Conversations podcast, featuring inspiring interviews with Etsy shop owners, hosted by Ijama Elazu.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Etsy Conversations podcast. I'm your host, Ijama. Thank you for joining me. And this week, we're doing a catch-up episode. My guest is Ashleymarie of Sey, and she runs the Etsy shop Sey Studios. And the last time we spoke, which I thought was 2 years ago, was actually in 2016. And that was episode 150. I will link to it for anyone who hasn't listened to that conversation. But I will just give you some quick background on Sey. So she's an artist, and she started off as an artist at Disneyland, then went to art school, and then she opened an Etsy shop, and she started off selling one thing and decided that just wasn't working for her. So she switched to selling name art. And we talked all about that in our episode back in 2016. That was November 2016. And now she's back, and we're going to catch up on what's been going on. So Sey, thank you so much for coming back on the podcast.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
I like doing these catch-up episodes because, one, I think there's just some encouragement in knowing that one can run an Etsy shop for, a while and ride the waves and still be okay, because sometimes when those changes come, I know some of them feel kind of discouraging. Some people just want to throw in the towel, but I like talking to sellers like you who just decide, I'm just going to keep going and, run my business. So how have you been the last 5 years?
Gosh, it's been a roller coaster. And, just with things changing in personal life, in like the Etsy platform itself, and just so many different things. Now, I've definitely felt like I've grown, and like so much. Oh my gosh, I still can't believe it's been 4 years since we last talked.
Mm-hmm.
But so I focused on name art then, and like narrowed it all down, right?
Yes.
But I still was working on my illustrative stuff on the side, and I wanted to always like really kind of jump back in there, but never get rid of the name art, because that's like my mindless art. Like I can just, not that it's mindless, but it's just like kind of like a meditative art. I know it makes people happy. That's like my whole purpose and my mission statement of why I do what I do, is like I want to spread light to others and make them smile, whatever it may be, because I don't know what they like. I mean, that's why they come to me with their specific custom things. So since then, I've actually expanded to put my illustrative work in my Etsy shop slowly. And now I'm feeling more confident, where I'm like, okay, I don't feel like it's taking away from my name stuff. It's enhancing, because it's like I'm an illustrator. I get bored. That's why I do many different like things at once. I'm not set on just oil paintings or whatever. Well, I don't do oil, but it's not set on one thing or another. I just, as long as I keep going and being creative. And so yeah, I'm definitely an Etsy seller, and I'm definitely here to stay on that platform. No matter how many times I've like looked into other places, I'm like, this fits me and this works for me, and it just makes sense because I don't have to think about all the other stuff. I prefer that. I'm just like, I can't do everything.
Right.
But I have opened a Patreon since, which allows me to kind of cater more to my illustrative work. And so yeah, I've been very busy.
So tell me, what other platforms did you look into and compare with selling on Etsy?
So I looked into Shopify. I looked into Square, which I use Square for. Okay. Last time we talked, I didn't have a gallery. I opened up a gallery.
Whoa.
And every month we would pop up with a themed art show. I did that for what are we on? 2.5 years. This year's paused the whole thing, but I mean, it's still there. We're just kind of waiting to see what's going on. But I did a show every single month for 2.5 years. And then when March hit, I was so grateful for the break.
Yeah.
But I used Square for that. So if we sold anything online, so I had experience kind of dabbling in it,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't care for it because Etsy feels more visually pleasing. Um, because it just organized in a way my brain is like, oh, this is where that is, and I don't know, I can understand it. Where the other one is more black and white on the back side of things, as a seller.
Right.
And it's not bad. It just I can't see like my eyes don't focus if it's not color coded. And I'm like, all right, well, it's not a bad platform. I just can't.
Yeah.
And then I looked into Shopify, and for me it just didn't it equaled the same for like all, the fees that Etsy does, and which isn't bad. It's not. It equaled the same amount per month, and I'm like, I'm going to keep what I have. I like it. I love
Okay.
it.
Now,
So,
when
I mean,
you say
there's
you
no right
use,
or wrong way. It's just what I preferred.
okay. Now, you said you use Square at your gallery.
Yes.
So Square, just for anyone who isn't familiar, is that the credit card processing thing?
Yes. Yeah. So it's I don't even know how they do it anymore. I used to stick the little like it was like what do you call it? Sorry, my words don't form.
It's an attachment that you put into your phone where the headphone jack
Yeah.
goes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now it's wireless, or Bluetooth, which I do have.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, it was that, but I also made a website for a shop because we had some people who would purchase things online in
Okay.
that way. So
And is that website the saystudios.net?
no, I separated it. That's bubblepopgallery.com.
Okay, so it's
Yeah,
completely different.
completely different. Even though it was kind of like my like baby sort of thing, I
Yeah.
like doing it because I like to meet other artists and
Mhm.
bring people together. And I was trying to find a way where I could make. I couldn't always find themed art shows that
Mm.
would work with my stuff because it's so whimsical.
Yeah, that's the
It's not
word.
more like fine
Exactly.
art for sure. It's not. So I made my own, and it took off here, and we would open on our art walk, First Friday art walks, and it was a blast. So much
Mm.
fun. And then I would just move it over to our local, sorry, dogs outside. For it was a local restaurant. We would just move the entire show over there, and then if somebody wanted to purchase something, they'd go to the website, pay for it, show the people, hey, I paid for it, and then they could pick up their art.
Okay.
It was a big to do. It was a lot of work.
Now, so the gallery to me sounds like it would be a big to do as well because you had to find a physical location.
Yes.
That means paying rent on a space, which, from what you're saying, you weren't in it every day. It was just once a month you were hosting these shows.
Yeah.
Was it a profitable venture or were you just breaking even?
It was more like breaking even, and
Okay.
a little bit profitable. I feel like if I was more, it depended on the theme of the show, to be honest with you, just what people were interested in. And we, after doing it for a couple years, we realized what time of year was the best for people. So, yeah, but all in all, the goal of it was just to kind of make more connections, to
Okay.
get out into the community. It got me out in the community a lot. I can't even remember how many nominations I got
Oh,
and
wow.
interviews, and it was just more like bringing people together because it just felt everyone was so separated, which feel like we're gonna have to do it again, which I'm cool with.
For now, yeah.
Yeah, I'm like I want to bring people together when that happens. So
Okay.
yeah, so it was it was like kind of a break even thing, but I was able to produce stuff monthly with whatever theme we ended up doing.
Mhm.
And so I ended up building up my portfolio, rather collection of work, and that kind of got me more comfortable to open up my own Patreon, which is the way I explain it to people
Mhm.
is it's my monthly subscription club, and club, and every month I have a theme that goes with it. You sign up say this month you get a reward the next month.
Okay.
And so like yeah, like it's been this progressive like thing like, okay, I can do Etsy. I wanted to do a gallery forever. And then I was like, okay, Patreon would be monthly. That would be like constant income
Yeah.
relatively. People can come and go as they please, but
Right.
I could still build up product and stuff for my shop and I don't know, make it more fun. I was just, entrepreneurs, we never stop thinking of
I
different.
know, and coming up with different ways to
Yeah.
yes, to one, get our work out there, and then also make money doing it. So with Patreon, would you say that most of your patrons on Patreon
Mhm.
are people who first knew you in person through seeing your work in the gallery?
That's a great question. No.
Okay.
It had nothing to do with it.
Okay.
Actually, most of my supporters or patrons, they are from all over, and I've never met them.
Oh, okay.
They found me through word of mouth from other artists or just on Instagram because I use that a lot.
Okay.
And um, they've even after that happened, like they subscribe and what they've been on for like a month or so. I had some drive even up to a live event.
Oh.
Um, and I was like, "Oh, hello." Like I didn't realize. And they're like, "Oh my gosh, thank you. I'm so excited." I'm like, "Oh, this is so cool." I'm like, I don't feel like I'm glad you're excited, but for me, I'm like, "Oh, this is weird." Like, am I that cool? Like I like here's my art. Like that's cooler.
Yeah. Oh
But yeah.
wow, that's exciting and interesting as well too
Yeah.
to know that people enjoy your artwork that much that they would come to a show. It's like, like being, a rock star, a musician. You listen to their music, and then when you hear they're, somewhere in your vicinity, you go because you enjoy what they do. You enjoy their art form so much.
Exactly. Yeah, and then I get it being like on the other end of it, but it's weird to be the
The
person.
focus, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, "Oh no, I hide in the background and like don't see me." Like
Okay, so now for anyone thinking of setting up a Patreon account, can we talk about what that process involves? Just to give a brief background for anyone who isn't familiar with Patreon, it's a way that it's a platform created for creators
Mhm.
to get compensated for what they create. Would
Yeah.
you say that's an accurate description of what Patreon is set up for?
Yes, I would. And there's so many different ways to do it. So before I jumped into it, well, I signed up first because I didn't want anyone ever taking my name and just saying they were me. So
Oh,
that's
oh,
what
does
I
that
did
happen?
first. But oh yeah, people could, I mean, they do it to celebrities. Not that I'm
Well,
huge, but I had a person, well, not a person, it was another store. I had been around forever with Sey Studios, right?
mhm.
And I had claimed my Etsy long ago. Like I was just like, this is going to be mine whenever I actually have stuff. And I made sure it was there. And then I bought my domain name and I had it for a while. Really didn't do much with it except for like redirect it to the my Etsy page or Etsy shop. But there was it's still around. It's a clothing company, I think in Vietnam called Sey Studio. And I'm like, oh, well, I
Oh,
can't be mad. They're not selling the same thing. We're not even
yeah.
in the same country. So it was just like trying to make sure my brand wasn't like their brand
Yeah.
and that's okay. Like but and so if you type it up on like Instagram, like both of ours come up, but you can tell who's who. And if you Google me cuz I know how to do I'm really good at SEO now.
Oh,
I
nice.
tend to come out first or come up first. So I'm like, all right, well, at least I know how to monkey around it. But
Yeah.
um anyway, so that's what I did at first for I don't know if
Okay.
that's the question, but yeah, so it is a platform for creators to basically make revenue monthly. And actually, it's not even monthly. You can set it up to be annually now.
Hmm.
You can set it up to be bi-monthly. Um you don't even have to give it depends on how you want to do your perks or tiers
Hmm.
and those rewards every month or if you do it once a year or every couple of months or if it's just is it a physical item? Is it a like you
Digital
email a
item.
digital item, or is it just sneak peeks? Because or you can vote on whatever you're working on, and but no one else can see it, and then people get to be like a part of the creative process.
Mm.
Um, it's just so, or you could just have a donation tier and people just donate to you. Now, I feel guilty all the time. I'm like, oh no, you need something. So my stuff tends to be more on the physical, or you get something out of it.
Yeah. Okay. I feel the same way as you actually, because I've never set up a Patreon, but there was a time where I did have a, support the podcast thing for donations, and like you, I felt so guilty. I thought, I feel like I should be giving something in exchange for support. So I took it down, I hid it. I was like, no.
No. See, and it's okay. See, probably all of us should have like just something, because I see artists who have like that coffee donation one, which I'm like,
Yeah.
that makes sense, because you know how much caffeine I go through.
Yes,
um,
I've seen that too, actually. The
yeah.
buy me a coffee.
Yeah, that's it. I'm like,
Yes.
I've never thought to set it up, because I'm like, that's just another thing I have to think about looking for. And if
That's
it's
so
just,
funny that you said that, because just this week I was thinking, oh, that would be so nice, because then if I say, okay, buy me a coffee, someone
Mhm.
might think they are buying me a coffee, but actually I'm using it to pay for website hosting or hosting the audio files for the podcast or what have you. But the idea that someone thinks they're buying me a coffee might feel more like, okay, yeah, I do want to buy you a coffee.
Well, and it's more personable. Like what
Yeah.
my so I have a great artist friend of mine. Her name's Critterosity, or her name's Eva, but she goes by Critterosity as her shop. And
Okay.
she doesn't do Etsy, but she does everything on her on Shopify.
Mm-hmm.
And so we talk a ton. And when she wasn't starting out, but like a couple years ago, she was doing these she called webinars, but they were basically what do you call it, workshops, like one episode workshops where she would do a live and explain whatever it was,
Hmm.
whether it was Shopify or Patreon or whatever. Well, I took them, and I, because I'm like, I know her, but I'm like, I need someone to sit down with me, hold my hand, say, okay, this is
Yeah.
what I learned, and blah blah blah. Well, she only charged like as much as a coffee, and she's like, well, it's like the way I explain it to people is like, if you wanted to have coffee with me and just talk about this over coffee, but we're not in the same city, so
Yeah.
it's just like $5. If you're interested, that's fine. I'm like, girl, I'll give you 10. I'll give you 20. Like, I'm just grateful for anyone who wants to talk to me about this,
Yes.
because I know it's boring,
Yeah.
but I find it fascinating. I love all this stuff.
Yeah.
Like, so I like the way she worded it. I was like, that's exactly it. I would. It was so funny. But
Nice. I should check out how she's doing that. That sounds like I like the way you explain how she does it, because it feels less skeezy and
yeah,
less
well,
like
and
you're just asking someone for money. It's more like, I'll talk about this anyway. And
mhm,
if we were to go out for coffee and talk about it, same thing.
exactly. And I like those more low key things,
Yeah.
like even doing live art and stuff. I'll do live art online now on my Instagram, because like you said, I did used to do live art at Disneyland. So people in doing art, I feel like I'm a different person, so it doesn't bother me. If it's something else, I kind of get nervous. But
Yeah.
if it's art, I'm kind of numb, and well, in a good way.
Yeah. Yes. In a good way.
So yeah, like, but it's more casual and whatever. And
Mm.
and I really wanted to start doing like I have a Patreon tier that's a paint club,
Mm.
and I'll send people these pre-printed designs that I have made for whatever theme it is. And then it's on watercolor paper. But you can watercolor it, you can acrylic it, you could do whatever. And so they'll have these designs, but if you're on my paint club tier, I also offer a let's paint together secret paint night.
Mm.
It's so much fun. I love it. And I'm like, man, I need to do this, like not with the Patreon though. I want to
Mm-hmm.
do these sort of things like outside of the theme. Like, like, oh, here's just something fun. Let's do like an art night or whatever. Cause I don't it takes so much work to get out and find a place who wants to host you and just be out and people. And now it's like, well, this might actually be smart, like,
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
try, but I don't know. I have so many ideas. It's just swimming.
I hear you. So say, what are the levels of Patreon? What are the Patreon levels that you offer to people who want to support you?
So for I have two different types.
Mhm.
You can always go to my site, anybody. It's patreon.com/Sey Studios. But
Okay.
I have those who are on the club tier or tiers, and then those who are crew. Let me try that again. Those who are on as like club patrons, and then those who are crew patrons. And I only separate it like that, like at the end of whatever that is. So the way it is if it's a coloring page, or if it's a sticker or anything pre-made or that I make and I can just send, I don't have to sit down and like physically paint it or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. Those are all my club members. And those are pretty simple for me to get because I can get them pre-made, made.
Mm-hmm.
And my crew members are all those who are on various original tiers, but they're all at a discounted price. But I only have so many up for so many slots.
Mm-hmm.
So say like there's a 3x3 original painting, but they tell me I they tell me 10 different ideas, and I get to pick whatever it is each month, and then I just send it to them. But for a 3x3, normally this charges for commissions is about $75, and that's for an original. But for them it's like 40-50 bucks. Like it's a huge difference because you're supporting me every month. Like
Right.
it's guaranteed. I'm like, you know what, you can get, that's really cool. Like I'm okay with that. And then I can actually, the way I have it worded is if I make anything like original like that, you get the original, but I still have my art rights, so I can make it
Oh,
out of stuff if I need to.
okay. So so then each patron gets their own physical product from you, handmade by you.
Yes.
And so is that why you limit the number of people at each level?
Yes. And I don't,
Okay.
the lower levels, the crew members, or sorry, the club members who are like stickers and postcards and all that, that's not too, I mean, I still limit it because I only want so many. It's the packaging is such a,
Right.
like, it's a process. But when it comes to the originals, I only have so much time in the month that I can devote for patrons,
Mm-hmm.
and then my commissions, and then my Etsy orders.
Right.
So like trying to find this happy balance, like
Yeah.
over I would say late spring through the summer, I was so slammed,
Mm.
which was a wonderful blessing because I ended up being the main provider at the time.
Yeah.
My husband was on pause.
Okay.
And so, but it's a weird shift. But so I was so busy, but I found out where I was like, okay, this is like a little too much of me taking stuff on,
Mm-hmm.
and this is a good balance, or I can open up more because I had more time. So it was a great like crash course, like all of it.
Right.
So
So then with the Patreon, so that means you determined exactly just how much per month it ends up being a fixed amount per month that you can possibly get.
yes.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Just wanted
And
to
so each
clarify.
tier's a different level. So I mean, different price. So it just depends what they select. But yeah, that's how it works. And I like it too. I always tell them like you don't have to stay forever. Like just so you know,
Yeah.
there's no like you're signed up for a year. Like no, it's okay. You can switch. Like if you like, oh, I want an original 1 month, oh, I'll just have a sticker the next. Like you just have
Yeah.
for a certain
Okay.
time.
Okay. And have you found that your patrons do stick around for a while?
I have,
Oh, that's
yes.
good.
So I got my friend on Patreon, and kind of back into art in general. And like I said, she's amazing. And the way she does it, and I didn't really like. I just told her about it, right? I didn't really have like all the answers at all. I was just like, I think he'd be good here. And this was before I really launched my own. Well, I've looked at hers, and she's done so successful.
Hmm.
And she does a lot of digital. Well, she does only digital illustration now, but it's really good. But the way she does the organizations, like you get to pick a print every like third month, and then like it's really complicated, and I'm like, "Okay, first of all, how can you think?" And she's like, "Apparently I thrive in chaos." And I'm like, "Okay, well it's working for you." So I'm really happy, but I'm like, I have to keep this easy for me because my brain will just go mushy. Like I don't
Yeah.
know how she does it, but she's got it all webbed and figured out in her own mind.
Wow. Yeah, I think it's a really good um platform for creators, especially if you're finding that you do have a following on Etsy or Instagram. Social media is where you'll know if you know who your, rabbit fans are. And if you
Yes.
find that you do have a following of people who love your artwork and, are constantly waiting to see what next you make, it's worth looking into Patreon.
Mhm.
Especially if you have the type of art that people can collect and make have themes going on and what have you. I think it's worth a try.
Oh, heck yeah. And it doesn't hurt that for Patreon, it doesn't, cost per month. It's just like whenever somebody subscribes, it's a portion of that.
Yeah.
So you're not out of pocket.
Yes. Yep,
Oh, that's
that's the other good thing about it. It costs you nothing. And if no
exactly.
one supports you, I mean, yes, it might bruise your ego, but you still don't pay anything.
Well, exactly. And like you, as a entrepreneur and creative, if there's ups and downs, you're not going to succeed at everything.
Yeah.
If you did, you'd be amazing. But like nobody does. Like that's the point.
Yes.
And it's okay. You got to embrace those failures. Like I can't even think of what I've done so many things the last 4 years. I'm just like, yeah, I know there's been failures, a
Yeah.
whole heck of a lot. But there's also been some amazing things that were totally worth it that I never thought would like pay off.
Right.
Like last year I made my first, like, I wanted to make a series for a calendar. And so every month during the full moon at night, I would paint a moon fairy to whatever theme
Hmm.
of, like, because there's the corn moon and the snow moon. I went to the Native American themes. I've always loved full moons. So I was like, oh, and fairies are fun. Well, I thought nobody would like really care about it. I was like, I'm just kind of doing this for me. Well, I sold out of my calendars. I ended up auctioning off one of those fairies during the week of the full moon every single month. So I only have two more to auction off. So
Wow.
I wait every month to auction off whatever one was for that month. It's been so successful. So I'm making a new theme for a calendar, not just like using old art. And so this one's more lighthearted and it's called Chunk of the Month, where it's like chunky, round, happy animals.
Oh, nice.
And
Where do
it's
you auction them off?
I auction them off on Etsy.
How do you do an auction on Etsy?
So you can do it, well, I mean, there's so many ways, but you can make a post and say, here's an auction, comment below of your bid. Usually you have like disclaimers and like explain what it is and blah, blah, blah. Or you can do a live auction where you go live and then just
Wait, you
auction it
mean
off.
on Instagram?
Did I say Instagram?
No, you said Etsy.
Oops. Sorry.
Etsy. I mean, sorry, Instagram, right?
Yeah, I'm talking about
Okay,
Instagram.
okay.
I'm
It's
sorry.
like, wait, what functionality is this that I am not aware of?
Heads up, Etsy. If you ever do that, I'm on it.
Yes.
That sounds amazing.
Okay, okay. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, no, so oh, sorry. Shh, you be quiet. So yeah, I've done it both ways. It just depends. Nowadays I'm more like, okay, I'm gonna make a post. It just takes so much energy to do a live. But that actually got us through a lot. Like I did a lot of live sales. So I would just
Mm,
like discount things because I just didn't put the time to actually list all my product. I still haven't listed all my product on my Etsy,
mm.
but I'd have people who were like, "Oh, you should do a live sale." So I started doing that. That was so smart. It was better than doing like a Comic-Con in person, like how well I did on those sales.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, it was incredible. And like
S-
not everyone was like that great, but all summer it was amazing. It was a blessing. I was literally crying happy tears because I'm like, I this is how it worked. And
Wow.
I slowed down this last month or last 2 months because school started. So I had to start focusing on homeschooling for the kids. And,
Mm.
um, but now people are like, oh, are you going to have one this month? And so I'm doing one today, but it's going to be, it takes a lot of work. So where if it's on Etsy, you list it and then they're like, okay, it's ready for sale. You just have to print it off and
Yeah.
package it. For live sales, I have separated folders. I put everybody's stuff in their individual folder. Then I have to invoice everyone individually and then they have to pay on time and then they have to,
Oh, right.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a more work, but it's more work, but it's so worth it.
And do you typically get higher prices when you do the live auctions on Instagram than you do if you were just to set a price and put it in your Etsy shop?
Like, do I charge more for live sales?
Do they end up selling more? Yeah, since people
Oh,
are bidding.
oh, for the auction part.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Oh, wow.
Yeah, typically
Great.
yes. Yeah, for the auctions. And so what I was doing was I was actually selling product in the beginning and then I would do some auctions at the end. And then I
Mm.
found what was really smart later on was to sprinkle the auctions throughout the sale. That way people didn't know and they wouldn't leave,
Oh, right. Yeah.
which is also exciting because I've shopped at other live sales like that.
Yeah.
And as a shopper, I'm like, oh, that's fun. It's the thrill of will I get it? Will I won't? And
Yes.
I get it. I'm very much that way. So I'm like, all right, if I like it, I know other people might like it too, which is very true.
Yeah. It's so interesting that you mentioned this live auction that you were doing for the first time ever yesterday. I happened to be on YouTube and you know how YouTube will tell you who's live? For whatever reason, it popped up in my feed somebody who was live, but she sells on eBay. So I was like, oh, I wonder why YouTube is, offering me this to watch. So I
Mhm.
go in, and that's exactly what she was doing. She was auctioning off items for sale and then what I figured was people who were buying to resell because she was selling things in bulk, like, bulk jewelry or bulk. I can't even
Oh,
remember what
okay.
she was selling. And it was so intriguing. I mean, I didn't bid, but I was just watching it all go down. And it was it was so interesting to watch, just the whole thing. And it wasn't highly produced or any. She was literally sitting in, I think she was in her garage actually.
Yeah. Well, it's so funny how that works. So first of all, I knew you can go live on YouTube.
Yeah.
I did not know people were selling on live. It
Yep.
makes sense. I'm hardly ever on because I get so lost on YouTube,
I
but I'm like
know.
better on Instagram. Again, I need the simple formats for a
Yeah.
reason. But it's that's fascinating. I just love watching people like, hey, how are you doing this? Like, ooh, people
Yes.
do
Yeah,
it.
that was why I stayed. I was just like, "Whoa, she's doing it." And then people were typing in the chat their bids, and so you could see the prices going up, and it wasn't anything outrageous. It wasn't like Sotheby's or what have you. But still, it was kind of exciting, and I was happy for the people who were bidding because you could tell that, they were enjoying the whole process.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of like, um, so I always refer like Comic Cons because that's where I've always gone, but
Mhm.
there's so many conventions of so many different uh, areas of life. And I always found those things so fascinating. Like
Yeah.
my dad would go because he was into the music, like Muzak and Serb Sound. Sorry, that was his business, but it was like elevator music and speakers for the schools and that sort of thing. So
Uh-huh.
he would have to go to, oh, I can't remember the name of it, but it was a big music event, convention. I'm like, I want to go so bad, and he's like, you don't even do any of this. I'm like, but it's so fascinating,
Yeah.
like the behind the scenes. And he's like, you're so weird, but okay.
Oh, that's
I just
funny.
love it. Yeah.
Okay, so that's another option for anyone who wants to try and sell in a different format, a different way. It's not something you have to commit to, which is nice. You can do it when you have the time and, you know,
Yeah.
see if it works. And if it doesn't, there's no financial outlay
No.
to trying that. Now, would you say one needs to have a large following on Instagram for this to be successful?
Not, I wouldn't say large following. You would need to advertise yourself well. You don't even have to have a ton of followers. Some people just randomly find you. But if you advertise that, hey, I'm going to do a live, or hey, I'm going to do this, I mean, I feel more people are going to watch it live and shop. And that's the thing. Like, you can have thousands of followers and have 10, or not 10 people, but you can have like 5 people on, and you could have thousands of followers and have 30 people on. Like, for me, that's huge. Like, if I have 30 people on and they're actually shopping, that's amazing. Um, but just because you have so many quote unquote followers doesn't mean that that many
They're all
people
going
are
to show up.
shopping, or if they're actually even looking at your posts every day. It has nothing to do with that. It's
Yeah.
actually who's actually purchasing. And I mean, that's the way with anything. Like,
Yeah, that's true. How do you get the word out before you go live so people know to show up?
I need to do it better.
Okay.
Usually I would announce it the week before. What I found is, like, if I announce it the week before, and every day or every other day be like, hey, I'm going to be doing this on Saturday. Like, don't forget. And just, you could do a little countdown. Like, there's a little thing you can add on to the story where it's like a countdown, and people can click on that reminder and it will alert them the day of or the day before, like, hey, this is coming up. Don't
Okay.
forget. And I'm like, oh, I like this so much because I'm a forgetter. Like, if it's not on my calendar and it's not on my phone and it's not on alert, all 3 of them, I'm going to forget.
Yeah. And is the countdown, is it a feature within Instagram?
Yeah. So if you go, do you know what stories are?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So if you go to post a story, and after you've taken a picture or recorded or whatever, if you're taking a picture, you can click on, where's my phone? You can click on, like, where to, oh, here, what's the words? Here, I have to look at it. I'm visual. This doesn't work for me.
Okay. No, that's
So you
fine.
click the picture, and then you go to the little, like, smiley face box. It looks like a sticker. And then within that, you just scroll down to countdown. It's like a
Oh,
little,
yes. Okay.
and
Yeah.
that's what that is. And so you can time it to be like a specific time on a specific day, or you can time it to be like, this day is when it starts. Like, it's just a whole day thing. I think at 8 or 9, it's when it, like, alerts people. But yeah, it's been very helpful if I did that, because then people get the reminders, they don't forget. I mean, we all have so much going on.
Yeah.
I'm just a little shop
So
doing my thing.
when you create the countdown in your stories only last 24 hours. So if someone, like, how do they get the reminder beyond when the story has expired?
So the countdown, once you create it, it will last through the time you make it. So it's kind of like an ebbed or whatever they call it. It's a coded thing after you made it. And so if you ever make another picture, like, say, the next day, and add that countdown again, you don't have to remake that countdown. It's already saved.
Oh, okay.
Countdown. And if you have saved ones, you just tap on that. And
okay.
like, right now I have multiple countdowns. So when I post about something, I just throw that little thing up there so people can go, oh yeah, that actually looks interesting. But yeah. And so, and then after they've linked themselves to it, Instagram figures out how to remind them. I don't have to do anything.
Now, are you able to see which people have set the countdown to remind them, or how many, so you know if anybody is going to show up?
I do know how many people who set the countdown to remind them. It doesn't, no, I don't know if I can find it or not, but I don't know how many people have reminded. I just kind of keep a mental tab, like, oh, okay, I see this many people doing it.
Okay. So you're able to at least see that people are having themselves reminded. So okay, at least one person is going to show up.
Exactly.
Oh, that's so neat.
Yeah, it's really neat. And they keep adding new things all the time. I'm sure by the time this airs, there's going to be something else.
Yeah,
which is
of
fine.
course. Now, something else you said caught my interest. You said you know so much about SEO now. which is crucial when you're trying to sell on the internet. You need to
Yes.
learn SEO. How did you learn SEO, and what have been some of the
Oh.
key takeaways that or key lessons you've learned in SEO that have really helped you up your game?
So, what I've learned is, okay. So what helped me? Um, I, and I don't even know if they're still running because, like I said, everything, there's this group called Rising Tide Society, and
Okay.
they're all over the United States. I believe all over the world, but it's basically this group, a creative like economy. It's like free to join. It's not a big like money thing.
Okay.
Um, and every month they would put out a guide. And then there would be local chapters, like groups of people who would just join together. It was called Together Tuesdays or Tuesdays Together. And then we would just talk about this guide. And it would focus on all about creative entrepreneurs, right? And it would
Mhm.
focus on various things that we normally don't sit down and talk about with other creatives, like taxes or SEO
Okay.
or social content. And that actually, I joined them. They kind of came up, I believe the might have been the year I talked to you or the year after.
Okay.
And I needed to get out into the community again. My kids were getting older and I just couldn't think with all this digital, virtual, like it was a whole new world after having kids because it
Mhm.
was just stuff happened and I didn't learn it. So I needed to find a way where I could talk to other people and learn. And so that's where I learned it. And okay. So it looks like they're still putting out these monthly guides and you can get them online for free. And it's just a collection of articles that focuses on those particular topics of the month. And then on the bottom, they give you resources for like podcasts that talk about this or
Okay.
all about those specific
Mhm.
or episodes or whatever or videos on YouTube. And I don't watch them all, but
Mhm.
I would every year or every month I would just look at whatever it was and took what I needed and learned some new stuff. And other months I was like, I kind of already know this, I'm okay, but you never know, just glancing.
Mhm.
That really helped me, because I was able to stay on top of things and other people were contributing to the new stuff that I just couldn't keep up on because
Yeah.
just trying to like search for all this constantly, it's exhausting.
It is. Yeah.
I mean, now I know why they have an entire social marketing team for various companies because
Yeah.
I mean, before it felt like a joke, but now it's just like, oh no, this is serious. Like,
It's funny you said it felt like a joke.
well, it did. I'm like, I mean, because like Facebook when I was getting into college was like huge, and but it was like, oh, it's a college thing. But I knew how to like navigate it and
Mhm.
do all these things and make blogs when blogs were just blogs, and
Right.
it was everyone was like, I don't understand, and I'm like, how? This is so easy. But for me, what was easy, it's not for other people,
Yeah.
and then I got pregnant, had kids, and that put me on pause. And now I felt like them. I'm like, I'm so sorry, everyone. You were, I get it. So, Rising Tide Society, they help me
Okay.
really refocus on the SEO. And so I've learned about hidden tags and pictures, and
Yeah.
that really helped me with Etsy. And then just knowing how to tag in general. I know there's like if you go live and do this, it's like always I felt like Etsy kind of was almost on ahead of the game in some ways because when they changed from like when you listed something recently, it would kind of bump you up in search. Now
Mhm.
it's like make sure your sales are on time, make sure this is like here
Mhm.
you got good ratings. All of it matters.
Yeah.
And now it's with Instagram I only have Instagram. So now with Instagram it's all the same. It's the same way. It's like you got to have it all going
Yeah.
or you might not be seen
Right.
sort of thing.
Yeah.
So
Now, this rising tide society, is
yeah,
it a community you have to pay to belong to?
no, and they have so it's like a two-part thing. So Rising Tide Society is it's not a community you have to pay for, um, but they also I, they've teamed up with a thing called Honeybook, and I tried them for a year, and it's have you heard of them?
I have. I'm not really sure. Is it like a CMS system? Like You know what? I've heard of it. I don't even want to pretend I know what it is. So please go ahead.
So I was like, when I was trying to figure out where I fit beyond Etsy and like getting out in the community, I was getting these random gigs. Not random, but like private commissions and
Oh, okay.
painting things all over. And so it's a way to invoice, but also create contracts and send out digital uh, invoices and contracts and kind of keep tabs of everything. And at the time, I
Okay.
was like, this is really helpful. Now I feel like I got this. I can do this on PayPal or my Etsy. It's not a big deal. But I was like, okay, I tried it out. So that's their other thing. You do pay for that one, but you don't have to do that. And that's kind of like how they make their money, but they do this other thing as a
Oh.
competition thing. Like, we're all in this together. Here's some information. It's just kind of a way to get their word out and stuff. And um, like I said, there's local groups that meet up or did meet up every month. Now, I mean, ours kind of dissipated, but I still talk to the same ladies and guys actually too, because it was mostly photographers that kind of got
Hmm.
me into this. But all the information really is helpful to any entrepreneur out there. And like I said, you can literally, I just typed it in and pulled up the this month's guide, and I was like, oh,
Okay.
it's still here. This is so helpful.
Okay. What other business resources have you found helpful, or are you thinking of using if you're not as involved with Rising to Tide Society?
Oh, good question. Um, just we're talking with my friends
Okay.
actually, and not like us, like anybody I've met online that I really connect with. I'm finding my tribe outside of my community that's
Mm,
physical,
yeah.
and seeing what works for them. And it right now I feel like we're learning a lot so much individually
Hmm.
that it's more beneficial to get people's experiences one on one.
Yeah.
And I've made a lot of good relationships this year and kind of like re fostered them, and like really like we've built a better bond. And I'm so grateful for that, because there's things that I felt so uncomfortable talking about, like um what's a good example? But like I've asked fellow artists, like, okay, what do you do in this situation? Because I've never been in it before.
Hmm.
And they're like, oh, you need to make sure that you put disclaimers on there, like of when things need to be paid. I'm like, okay, now I'm
Mm.
learning. But
Hmm.
and things I would be afraid to talk about before, I'm just like, okay, I have to ask. And like, if I'm wrong, just tell me I'm wrong and it's okay. I'm
Yeah.
not gonna take it wrong. And it's nice to hear that you're not alone, that you're not struggling the same struggles, that you don't like going through the ups and downs, like where you feel like, is this really worth it? Am I doing the right thing? Sometimes it's even not so much a fellow shop owner, but it's a a client or customer who messages you and says, thank you so much for doing what you're doing. This is exactly what I needed. I just got it today. Or
Yeah.
just let you know, this was, I got it a couple months ago, but I'm finally telling you about it. And hearing those like little things, that those little ripple effects of happiness, like
Yeah.
my whole business model has been, as long as long as I'm creating art to spread light and joy and bring smiles and happiness to people. Well, that was a long-winded version, but spreading positivity is was my thing.
Yeah.
And yes, I'm an artist, but I mean, like, seriously, like if you're into Nightmare Before Christmas or like mermaids, is like,
Yeah.
as long as I could make you smile and my art
Mm.
did that, I felt good. But I didn't know like when you're in your studio by yourself,
Hmm.
how do you know you're not seeing people's faces all the time? And
Yeah.
I would get these messages on these really down days, and I would just cry. I'm like, thank you so much for saying that, because I thought I was going to have to close my shop.
Yeah.
Like, and we just get in our heads sometimes,
Yep.
and it's just the negative talking. And it's not, you can do this. You've done, look how far we've come. 4 years is the last time I talked to you. And
Hmm.
I've been doing this for how long? And I still get those days.
Yeah.
But it's okay. And you just get through them and you just keep pushing forward or just take a break, sleep, eat,
Yeah.
you know, kind
Yes.
of basic things you forget after doing it for so long.
Yeah. I have a cousin who I would, when I start to spiral, she would say, "Did you eat?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And she's like, "Did you eat? Eat. Just eat. I don't want to hear anything. Just eat." I'm like, "Okay."
Yep. My daughters call it, "Oh, I'm hangry today." And I'm like, okay. I didn't think I'd ever hear that from kids, but yeah.
Now,
Oh.
I remember when we talked the last time,
Hmm.
your artwork was featured on Conan O'Brien's show. Have you had any other interesting things like that happen? Like anyone pick up your art surprisingly and, feature it somewhere you weren't expecting?
Let me see. I have a whole section on my website for this because I forget.
Oh, nice. And for
uh,
anyone who wants to, while you're looking that up,
oh,
anyone who wants to check out Sey's website, it's at seystudios.net. That's SEYSTUDIOS.net. And
yes.
her Etsy shop is Sey Studios.
Yep. I've been, let's see. Oh, okay. Here's a fun one. So, earlier this year, like January, actually, it was like a last minute thing that our local Comic Con guy put together called Mouse Con. It was like mostly like Disney fantasy stuff
Mhm.
inspired. And I was like, okay, I'm going to try this. Well, I was slammed that day. It was the best convention I've ever done. And I met the guy who runs this particular podcast called Mouse Talasia podcast. Anyway, I was like, whatever. I didn't really know him. He's just a nice guy. And
Mhm.
my friend was like, told me a week later, she's like, "Oh my gosh, you got mentioned on the podcast." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "I don't even listen. Like the only podcast I listen to is a ghost one." And I'm like, so I listened to it and I got featured there and that got me a lot of followers.
Oh,
And
wow.
but yeah, that was in February. And it's just, I mean, like not many people are gonna like really, I feel like know, but because I didn't know, but that doesn't, I don't know, maybe my radar is just different. But that kind of surprised me that I was on a podcast that I didn't physically go out to. He bought an original and was like,
Oh,
"This artist
wow.
is amazing," and like, and my friend Critterosity was on it too. And I was like, "Wait, what? Like, this is cool, but like, what happened?"
That's exactly what you want, isn't it?
Yeah. It was a good thing. It wasn't like one of those things where like, yeah, I don't know about this person. Like,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
yeah, and I've been on a couple podcasts this year that just happens. Some friends have just had them. Oh, I feel like almost every month for the last 3 years, I've been in our local paper, like either about yeah, it has been, either about my gallery that was going or my art in general. I've been nominated for things like it's just been constant. And so that's why I have this whole section on my site and now it says press. So that way, if I have to apply to anything, like they're like, "And what recent things have you like been
Done.
published in?" I'm like, "Oh, here it is." I don't have to think. I can't.
You're like, here's the link. Check it out. Check
Exactly.
me out.
No, not just more like here's proof that I'm existing.
Yeah. Oh, no, no, no. I know. That's
And then the
great.
same with my like I know this year I haven't even updated it because I'm always doing art shows too, even though I'm not
Hmm.
curating them. I'm still finding other galleries that are still going forward, which is great because I'm able to focus and do my art. Um, but I have to keep tabs on that too because I've done over, I want to say 200, 300 physical gallery shows. And I don't stop. I just love them so much. But
Yeah.
I have a whole list going, and this year I just haven't updated it. But whereas I thought I was only going to do 2 shows or like 4 shows this year, it's went to like a lot more than that. And I'm like, okay, I got to write this down because I'm not going to remember what I
Yeah.
was in, where I was in.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's good that you're keeping track and have a whole page because it does help, And
Yeah.
if someone's on the fence about, say, giving you commissioned work, they're
Hmm.
going to probably want to dig a little bit deeper. Like, okay, is she really that good?
Well, no, yeah, exactly. And like, I always try to think, I know me personally, I'm not catering to customers like me because I shop differently. But if I did have a customer like me, I'd be like, okay, I know you're a researcher. You're going to spend hours to try to like decide something and end up
Mm-hmm.
picking whatever the first thing was at the beginning was anyway. But
Mm-hmm.
um, I'm very much like that. Like when I have something on my mind or if I want to figure it out, I freaking dive hardcore. I was even looking for a planner to get me through this, like, start from now until next year because I didn't use a planner this last year.
Yeah.
And I spent, I swear, 8 hours looking for a planner, right design, right inspiration.
Yeah.
It was so dumb. And, but it helps me because I need color coding. I need things
Yes.
organized. But yeah, I feel like I'm OCD in that fact. But like everything else, like if you saw my studio, I'm like, I live in piles right now because it's busy season.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, since you've already done the homework, I might just ask you which planner you use, because yes, I do the same thing. I go, I run in circles, trying to get all the information I need because I need it exactly a certain way. Like you said, for you it's color coding, and this for me it's like, okay, is there enough space to write? Is there a section where I can do this? What's the fonts that they use, if there's
Right?
any printing on the page, because I have a thing with fonts. It's
Oh, me
crazy.
too. If it's Times New Roman, I'm turning away. And it's not because like if it's a book, like a novel, I could read that. But if it's in my planner, no, you better be like New Gothic or New Century Gothic or something. Like I know, nerd,
Yeah.
but
Okay, good, we're not crazy then.
maybe a little, but yeah.
So say
Yeah.
2021, what are the plans you have for Say Studios? What's your vision going into the new year and beyond?
Okay. Well, let's start with this year. I actually goal set. So I bought, you talk about planners. So I didn't buy a planner this last year. I bought a goal planner. Or was it? Hold on. What's it called? Cultivate over. No, what's it called? Hold on. Cultivate What Matters comes out with, it's called Power Sheets, but it looks like a planner and it's a goal setting thing. So
Hmm.
that's what I use this year. And last year they told me, or not told me, but they have this thing where visualize, like throw out so many words and circle the top 5 you like, and then which one really calls to you.
Hmm.
I ended up picking productive, and then I added in PJs. This was in December. And then everything happened this year. And I'm like,
Uh-huh.
this was so spot on. It was creepy. So I bought it again because I like that goal thing, like the visualizing, sitting it down. It's organized. It's amazing. Now that's just for goals. That's not my weekly planner.
Mm-hmm.
But so this one, I really feel like 2021 is going to be about breathing
Hmm.
and just being, and enjoying what I do have. Really, like I've already, like I said, started my chonky series. So it's around cute creatures, doing happy things, but
Right.
just prepping and really, not prepping, but like more happy, not so frenzied, and very balanced.
Hmm.
As like breathing, balanced, and being. Ooh, I really like that. But like really, like I'm still busy, but not like with my chicken with the head cut off.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
but
good.
I'm gonna just keep with my Patreon. I'm gonna with my Etsy. I want to finally have most of my listings up. I always say all of them, but that's never. But I figured out a way to organize it now, where it's not too chaotic. And I want to, when I do list something, I want to list it by design. So, like, say I have a mermaid, and you click on that mermaid design, and then it says you can get this as a sticker, as a print, as a card. Like, it's
Mm.
listed by like that, not like here's a card on one listing, here's the print on another. Because I
Right,
have so
right.
much now, so I was trying to figure out a way to consolidate it, but not make it too crazy.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm hoping that's going to work. I've done it, I think, with like 5 listings so far, and I like it personally, but we'll see. My customers care for it.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to know how that works on Etsy, especially with getting found in search.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I mean, like, it's yeah, that's true. I don't know. I feel like I have so many. I don't want to overwhelm my shoppers, and I really like that option that they have added. I don't know when they added it because I never really used it all that much, but where they added different variations to things, I was
Mm-hmm,
like,
mm-hmm.
"Ooh, I love that." And
Yeah.
so, like for my paint pages, like my paint page designs, like you click on it, it's for paint pages, but you can select like unicorn or mermaid or I don't know what else I have, ghost.
Yeah.
But and for that, I'm like, that helps
Okay.
just and I don't know. Oh, cool. This is how I think of it too. If people are purchasing one type of item, like say all paint pages or just like all name paintings, it's going to be constantly kicked up into search more and more and more. And it's like, oh, this is a popular item.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I have one particular name painting. I have a lot of different name painting listings, but
Mm-hmm.
now I've kind of honed it down. And the one that gets the most bumps or the most sales is actually the one that says custom name painting. It has so many different versions, like
Mm.
photos online on it. And people are like, oh, I can do whatever I want. Whereas the other ones where I go, like, this one's a Halloween theme, like, doesn't get as many sales. And the other one, people can customize it now and put it in their
Yeah.
little section. That has helped me so much. When they added that feature, I was like, oh, thank you. This is what I needed. Because trying to
Yeah.
figure out how to remind people, okay, when you go to the cart in the notes section, make sure you put this. And people would forget or they wouldn't see it because I wouldn't see it when I went to go purchase something for someone else. It was a big hassle. And now I feel like it's so much easier.
Oh,
So
nice.
that's another way to look at it. But yeah, I've found that doing that, at least with the main name painting, has been helpful. But also having the other listings helps too, because then people see you in search, like you said, and it's like, oh, they'll actually like this style. Like
Right.
it's worth the 20 cents. Trust me.
Nice. So say, what advice, or maybe not advice, but what parting words of inspiration can you share with that seller who has been, hanging in there on Etsy and for a while, and
Hmm.
maybe not hitting all the notes that they want to as a seller? What can you tell that person, having been around for a while and um looking into the future?
Well, see if the item or whatever you're offering, is there a need for it? Because like when I started, I wanted to do my illustration stuff and that didn't sell worth anything. And I had to switch it up for a bit.
Mm.
But life is always changing. Customers are always changing. Things evolve. Now I'm adding my illustration stuff back in, and that's doing pretty well too. So it wasn't a forever thing where it was gone. It was just I needed to work on that a little bit more.
Mm.
So I just kind of tailor your shop to what clients are looking for, or advertise. Have you been um, talking about it? Have you gone live? If you're, online, have you gone live and actually physically shown people? Try to sell your piece, because if you're at conventions or physical craft fairs or whatever, you're there to sell your item.
Mhm.
You're physically there. People get to know you. Have people had a chance to get to know you? Like I go live as much as I can to, even though if I'm just doing commissions or whatever, I talk to people when they come online. I'm like, hey, yeah, this is what I'm working on, and
Mm.
this is how I make it. And you're a real person. They actually get to see like who you are and what's going on. And um, it can be scary. Maybe that's not your way of doing it. Maybe you want to do little quick snippet videos. Like, are you using media all you possibly can? Are
Yeah,
you?
that's a big
Uh,
one.
yeah, and make sure you still have like, don't give your whole life away. That's not the point. You can still have secrecy, like, and your personal life, but like, y- are you doing what you can to actually get out there or have your product seen? Because just because you have an Etsy shop and just because there's search doesn't mean people can see your stuff.
Mm.
Um, That's the other thing. It's like, because, like when I first tried, I just did my illustration. Well, every artist was doing illustration on there. And so
Right.
I was like at the bottom of the gene pool, like it's just not happening. So, but at the time, nobody was doing name paintings. And I was like, well, I know how to do this. Let me throw it up there. And people were looking for like simple things like that. But things constantly change. Like, just don't give up. Try, maybe just refocus what you're working on, or get out there a little bit more, just some way. You can do it. It's okay. Don't be scared, really. Living in fear did me nothing. It made it worse. Like, once I started just getting out of my shell and just trusting, and like, if it doesn't work out, hey, I'm okay with that. What's that going to do to me if you don't care for it? It's okay. I'll try something else and move forward. Like, it's really not that bad. You're going to be fine.
Nice. I like that. Yes. And I know it's scary because there's that to try something new, or to step out, or put yourself out there in a way that you feel exposes you or your work to rejection. But sometimes you never, I mean, yes, you could be rejected, but on the flip side, you could just find the people who are looking for what you have to offer.
Well, exactly. And you're not going to please everyone either. So don't ever think that like one bad review is not going to kick you down. Like, don't let it kick you down. I've had, I think, I want to say 4 bad reviews ever.
Oh.
And at first I was like, oh, what did I do to not make you like love me or whatever? And now it's just like, it's okay. There's just some people who are just negative out there, or they have a different perception. Just move forward. You don't have to please them. You did your best, and that's all that matters, really.
Yeah. Now, Sey, what's the best way folks can connect with you if they want to continue a conversation with you, or just reach out to you about your artwork?
Well, you can connect with me on Instagram, so at Sey Studios. You can email me at saystudios@gmail.com. Or saystudios@gmail.com. You could find me on Patreon and find me on my website. I mean, if you want to talk to me more casually, whenever I go live, or if you want to comment on my Instagram, that's the best way to. But if you want to contact me for like artwork and commissions, email is always the best, or Etsy is always the best.
Okay, perfect. I will have every link to where you can find and connect with Sey on the website at convome.com. So you can check out what she's doing, connect with her. It sounds like you're really active on Instagram. So like you said, that's probably the best way. And so I will definitely link to that as well. Sey, are we going to wait another 5 years before we talk again?
I hope not, because I was telling my friend and my husband, I'm like, I miss her so much. We just like connect so well. I don't even know what side of the world you're on. I'm on what side am I on? West
You're
Coast.
on West Coast. I'm out West too. Okay, we'll talk
Lord.
after. But no, so it won't be another 5 years, and I would love, love, love to catch up with you. I'm inspired that, with what you're doing and how you're constantly reinventing how you make your business run. Your craft is what it is, and it's fantastic. You've honed that in. I think I'm more so inspired by how you've just found different ways to connect, and to connect your work with the people who want it on Instagram, and opening a gallery, and just getting out there in the community, which is something, like we said, might be a little bit frightening, but the payoff can be so worth it. And so you have inspired me to try different things and not be so worried about rejection. So thank you so much for that.
You're so welcome. I'm so glad.
And I thank you for listening to the podcast. I will be back with another episode next week.
Thank you for listening. You can subscribe to the podcast in iTunes, and while you're there, please leave a review too. Visit convome.com to leave a comment or feedback on this episode.